Let me start by saying I'm not the kind of person who believes in ghosts, skinwalkers, or any of that creepypasta crap. But whatever's been happening here, it's got me Googling weird animal behavior during snowstorms at 3 a.m., so buckle up. I'm holed up in this cabin in the Rockies, my uncle's place. He offered it to me after my breakup because the mountains heal or whatever. Cute, but the timing was actually perfect. I needed to disappear for a bit. Spotty cell service, no ex drunk texting me, just me, my dog Bear, and a metric ton of firewood. Then the blizzard hit. First few days were fine, cozy even. Bear and I hunkered down, binge-watched The Office on DVD, and drank enough cocoa to kill a horse. But on the fourth morning, I opened the door to let Bear out and nearly stepped on a dead crow, just splayed out in the snow, wings twisted like it fell mid-flight. No blood, no marks, just dead. Weird, but maybe a hawk dropped it off. Bears hibernate, right? Whatever. I tossed it into the woods and didn't think anything about it. Next morning, another one. Same spot, same twisted wings, this time a blue jay. By day 3 of the dead birds, I was pacing. Bear wouldn't go near the porch anymore. He'd just stand at the threshold, hackles up, growling at nothing. I tried setting up my phone to record the porch overnight. The video showed nothing but static snowflakes. Until 4:07 a.m., when the feed glitched for 3 seconds. When it came back, there was the bird, a tiny sparrow frozen solid. No footprints, no shadows, nothing. I told myself it had to be an animal, a fox maybe, but foxes don't leave gifts, and they don't open screen doors. Yeah, I didn't mention that part. On day 5, the bird, a mangled robin, wasn't on the porch. It was inside the house, right on the rug. The door was still locked. At this point, I'm losing it. I called the only neighbor within 5 miles, this old guy named Mr. Voss. He's lived here since the 70s. Looks like he's made a jerky in spite. When I told him about the birds, he went quiet and then he said, "You got a chimney?" "Yeah, why?" "Keep it closed." "It's minus 20.
You asked."
He hung up. That night, I stuffed the chimney with a trash bag and duct tape, slept with Bear on the couch, a hatchet in my hand. No bird in the morning. Instead, there were footprints. Human-ish, but too long in the toes, trailing from the tree line to the porch. They stopped right at the steps, no tracks leading back. I followed them halfway to the woods. The prints just ended, like whatever made them vanished into thin air. That's when I noticed the smell. Rotting meat, but sweet, cloying, almost chemical. Bear threw up twice on the walk back. The next day, Mr. Voss didn't answer his phone. I hiked to his place at noon, Bear glued to my side. His cabin looked abandoned. Door ajar, snowdrifts spilling inside, no sign of him. But on his kitchen table, a dozen mason jars filled with eyes. Bird eyes, I think, floating in murky liquid. I noped out of there so fast. That night, the blizzard howled like it was alive. Around 2 a.m., something started scratching at the roof. Not the usual creaks of snow-heavy branches. This was deliberate. It was moving from the chimney to the windows. Bear hid under the bed, whining. Then the power went out. I'm not ashamed to say I cried. I clutched the hatchet, staring into the dark, listening to the scratching get louder, closer, until it was right outside the bedroom door. And then it stopped. Something knocked 3 times. Out on the door, on the window. I didn't look. I didn't breathe. After an eternity, I heard snow crunching outside. Peeked through the curtain just in time to see a shadow loping into the woods. Too tall, too thin. Its arms swung like they had too many joints. In the morning, there were no birds. Just a pair of cracked bifocals in the snow. Mr. Voss' glasses. The police are looking into it. They don't believe me about the birds or the jars or the shadows. They keep asking if I've seen Mr. Voss, if I've ever had psychiatric episodes. I'm writing this from a motel 50 miles south. Bear won't eat. I keep checking the windows. And this morning, there was a dead magpie outside my door. Its wings were twisted. Okay, so I need to get this off my chest. I've been lurking here for years, never posted, but after what's been happening, maybe someone out here's heard of this before, or at least can tell me I'm not losing my mind. I rented this cabin in the middle of nowhere, Montana, back in October. Needed to get away from the city, you know. Work was eating me alive, and my therapist kept yapping about reconnecting with nature. The place was cheap too, $70 a night. Red flag? Probably. but the photos online showed a cozy little A-frame with a wood stove and a view of the Rockies. Sold. The first few days were great. Quiet, no Wi-Fi, spotty cell service, just pine trees and the occasional elk wandering through the clearing. Then, on the third night, I found the radio. It was one of those old analog things, faux wood paneling built into the kitchen wall like it came with the cabin in the 70s. I hadn't even noticed it until I was washing dishes and my elbow hit the power knob. Static hissed out and I jumped. But then after a few seconds of fuzz, a song started playing. It was a waltz? Slow, kind of melancholy, piano and strings, no vocals. The sort of thing you'd hear in a black and white movie ballroom scene. Weird, but whatever. I left it on for background noise while I made dinner. Here's where it gets strange. The next morning, I flipped the radio on again. Same song. Exact same song. No fade out, no DJ, no ads, just that waltz, looping over and over. I figured it must have been a local station playing niche music or some weird signal bleed. But when I tried turning the dial, it wouldn't budge, stuck on whatever frequency that song was on. I shrugged it off. Quirky cabin thing, right? Like the creaky floorboards or the smell of damp firewood. But that night around 3 a.m., I woke up freezing. The wood stove had died out, and the radio was on. I know I'd turned it off before bed, but there it was, humming that same waltz louder than before. Loud enough that I could hear it clearly from my bedroom. I got up, shut it off, and chalked it up to faulty wiring. Old cabin, old radio, right? Makes sense. Except the next day, it happened again, and again. Every time I turned it off, it would switch back on within an hour, and each time the volume crept up. By day 5, I had to shout over it to hear myself. I tried unplugging it. No luck. The damn thing kept playing, cord dangling like it was juiced by something else. I drove 45 minutes to the nearest town, a one-stoplight place called Bitterroot, and asked the guy at the gas station if he knew anything about the cabin. He got real quiet. "That A-frame up near Hollow Creek?" he asked. When I nodded, he just said, "Oh." Refused to elaborate. Sold me a pack of batteries and a flashlight, though. "You'll need this," he muttered. That night, the radio was louder than ever. The song had changed, too. Still a waltz, but distorted, like the piano keys were being struck too hard, the strings fraying. I tried covering the radio with blankets, stuffing it in the closet, even taking a hammer to it. Nothing worked. The song pulsed through the walls. I started hearing it in my dreams. Then came the footsteps. 2 nights ago, I was sitting by the fire trying to ignore the music when I heard something crunching in the snow. Heavy, deliberate steps circling the cabin. I froze. The radio's volume spiked, suddenly deafening, and the footsteps stopped right outside the window. I didn't sleep. I barricaded the door, kept the flashlight and a hatchet close. The radio played nonstop. The waltz now warped into something jagged, almost aggressive. Yesterday morning I packed my car to leave, but the engine wouldn't start. Dead battery, no cell service, no way out. Last night was the worst. The radio was screaming the song so loud my ears rang. And then, in the static between notes, I heard something else. A voice, whispering lyrics. I don't remember what they said. My head felt like it was splitting, but I know it wasn't English. It wasn't any language I've ever heard. And outside, there were shapes in the trees. Tall, too still, not animals, not people. I'm writing this from the gas station in Bitterroot. My car magically started at dawn. I didn't look back as I peeled out of there. But here's the thing. When I got here, I turned on my cell phone to call a friend, and in my voice memos, there's a recording. I must have pocket dialed it during the night. It's the song, clear as day, and under the music you can hear something scraping against the cabin door. I'm never going back, but I can't stop thinking about the last thing the gas station guy said as I left. "Funny, that song, my granddaddy used to hum it before he disappeared up there in '58. The radio is still playing in my head, and it's getting louder. Alright, buckle up. This happened last winter, and I still can't sleep without a light on. I've been debating posting this for months, but after seeing similar stories here, I figured, why not? Just don't ask for the location. Trust me, you don't want to know. So my aunt owns this old farmhouse way up in the boonies. She winters in Florida and needed someone to house sit, feed the cat, check the pipes, blah blah. I'm between jobs, so free rent sounded great. The place is isolated, though. Nearest neighbor's a mile down a dirt road. Cell service, forget it. But hey, quiet, right? First night, everything's fine. Just me, a six-pack, and the cat, a mangy thing named Gus, who glared at me like I was the intruder. Around 3 a.m., I wake up to this noise. Not like a bang or anything, more like shuffling, like someone dragging their feet through gravel. I chalk it up to the wind. The house has got to be 100 years old and creaks like a horror movie set, and pass out again. Next morning, I sleep outside to smoke and nearly choke on my Camel. Overnight, it had snowed maybe 2 inches, and there, cutting across the yard, were footprints. Not animal tracks, but boot prints, human-sized. But here's the thing. They started at the back door and trailed off into the woods, not toward the house, away from it. My brain short-circuited. Who the hell leaves a house at 3 a.m. in a snowstorm without coming inside first? I checked the doors, all locked. No broken windows, nothing stolen. Gus was still hissing at me from the couch. I walked a while until I had a bar and called my aunt, and she just laughed. "Probably a hunter getting lost," she said. "Happens all the time." "But hunters don't leave prints from your house, Karen." That night, I triple-checked the locks, even shoved the chair under the doorknob like a paranoid sitcom character. Around the same time, the shuffling came back, louder, closer, and this wet sound, like a dog lapping water. I grabbed a kitchen knife, don't judge, and did a sweep. Nothing. But the cat was gone. Not hiding, gone. Back door still locked. Next morning, more snow, more footprints, same path. Out from the house into the trees, but this time the prints were uneven, like one of their legs were dragging, and Gus was back, sitting on the porch like nothing happened. His paws were clean, no snow. I drove into town next day to ask around. The gas station clerk went pale when I mentioned the house. "Folks say that land's weird," he muttered. "Used to be a family out there, went missing in the 30s, they never found the dad." He wouldn't look at me in the eye after that. Night 3, I'm wired on coffee, staring out the kitchen window. The woods are pitch black. Then around midnight, I see it. A shadow moving between the trees. Not an animal. Too tall, too slow. It stops like it's staring right at me. I duck, heart slamming, and when I look again, it's gone. The next morning, the footprints are all different. Smaller, child size, still leading away. By day 5, I'm a wreck. No sleep, jumping at every noise. That's when the knocking started. All sides of the house, 3 rapid taps, then silence. I'd sprint to the window. Nothing. No tracks. No one. Gus just watched, tail flicking. The final night, I'm in the living room, trying to binge Netflix offline when the power cuts. Total blackout. My flashlight dies. I'm fumbling for candles when I hear the back door rattle. Not a knock, a thud, like someone throwing their weight against it. Then the doorknob twists. I freeze. The chair under the knob screeches as it's shoved inward. Something's trying to get in, hard. I'm screaming, grabbing whatever I can, a lamp, a shoe, when suddenly it stops. Silence. I must have waited an hour before checking. Door still locked, chair in place, but outside in the fresh snow, there's a single set of footprints leading to the house. I left that night, didn't even wake the cat. My aunt thinks I'm dramatic. The cops found nothing. But here's what I can't shake. When I peeled out of the driveway, my headlights swept the woods. For a second, I swore I saw 2 figures standing there, one tall, one small, and they were holding hands. Cell service? Maybe once. Maybe